The big David Deutsch oxymoron. If the ultimate arbiter is physics, and the laws of physics are derived by human ingenuity, it's humans that formulate the workings of nature in the laws of physics. And therefore the laws of physics determine what we actually can do and what we cannot do, what is and what isn't. Then it's actually us humans that determine what is and what isn't. It's not physics. So which one is it? This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's July 28, 2023. This is Krimdelko. This is the third installment today. We're up 130% for the year. The market's up 20.2. We're outperforming by 109.8. In this third episode today, I am discussing a recent conversation between David Deutsch and Charlie Bennett, organized by the Università della Svizzera Italiana in, I think, Lugano. YouTube link in the show notes. So in this conversation, Deutsch talks about his views on reality and his so-called mathematical misconception, which just means that mathematics is a construct by humans and it derives from the laws of physics, that as we know them. So what he's saying is that the ultimate arbiter of what is and what isn't is actually nature. And we humans are in the process of finding out what that is. So this is not the equivalent of God. Let's be clear about that. This is not the same. This is a lot more subtle than that. Because we can find out what nature is. And we can do it Popperian-wise or fallibilism or whatever you want to choose. You can figure out what it is. And we've been doing this. Newton, Einstein, Everett, just to name a few. There's a lot more subtlety, of course, in this approach. For example, we have subdivisions, we have university departments, we have CRISPR, we have, I don't know, whatever. We have lots of ways to understand nature and then to use it for our purpose by developing technology. So this is a lot more useful than just saying God is the ultimate arbiter. However, I see an epistemological oxymoron here. If Deutsch says that we are all its bit from it, so it's physics that determines what we know. Let's say our rationality is determined by physics. The number pi is a construct that we came up with because of the geometry of physics that we understand, the way we understand, for example. However, if I follow this argument, then I have to say, well, listen, if you tell me the laws of physics are determining what is and what isn't, well, we humans are determining the laws of physics. Quite frankly, it's not even a Popperian process most of the time. It's a political process. Look at Everett. Look at the pandemic, how politically charged all of a sudden knowledge became. What is and what isn't, in most cases, becomes a political process, nothing to do with seeking the truth or any of that stuff. So in that sense, I struggle with this view that nature is the ultimate arbiter, because we are determining what nature tells us. Like let's say we do an experiment. You drive your bike towards a cliff and then you fall down that cliff. So that's an experiment that tells you that there's something that pulls you down. We call that thing gravity. We don't quite understand it, but we have a working definition. The Newtonian physics helps us understand what happens if you drive down that cliff. But that's us deciding, based on a language that we call the laws of physics, what is going on. And it's certainly most likely not the truth, because it keeps changing all the time, and it shouldn't be. And Deutsch talks about this. He doesn't want it to be the truth. He likes the Gödel inconsistency theorem because it keeps us open for infinity. So in that sense, I guess what Deutsch is saying is that we're just in an eternal struggle to figure out nature. Nature is the ultimate arbiter, and we're using the laws of physics as a guidepost, as a shortcut, a kind of first principles approach. Well, what we call first principles really isn't first principles. It's already, like the laws of physics are not first principles. The laws of physics are a first deviation away from nature. It's relationships expressed in language, mathematical or English or Latin or whatever you want. That's not first principles. So there's no such thing as first principles. I mean, it's obviously also for the ease of even doing research. Deutsch talks about high-level concepts. He talks about emergent factors. He discourages looking for the minuscule little laws. So, for example, I guess he's trying to create a theory, a constructive theory, which is not a theory of everything. It's a theory of how knowledge creation works. That's what he's trying to. So what Deutsch is trying to do is stay away from an absolute truth. There is no such thing. There is only the accumulation of knowledge. There's knowledge creation, and he wants to understand how knowledge creation works. That's what constructive theory is supposed to do. So it's an epistemology which I would say, according to Deutsch, is the absolute king of sciences, because it's the science of how science works. It's the science of how knowledge creation works, which is the underlying force of science. So to summarize, again, I have a problem here. The problem is, if the ultimate arbiter is nature, and the laws of physics are a human-derived language of how nature works, and laws of physics determine what is and what isn't in this universe for us humans, then we are ultimately the ultimate arbiters, and it's not nature. So I have a problem with that. I'm not sure I would like to discuss that with Deutsch, or this is definitely a question I have. So again, if the ultimate arbiter is nature, but we only can talk through our laws of physics, or we can only interact with nature through our laws of physics, those are derived by us. So which one exactly is relevant for us, nature or the laws of physics? And if we are the ultimate arbiter of what is and what isn't through the formulation of the laws of physics, then how do we manage that process? How do we make sure that process is as little corrupt and as efficient as possible?